What's up, guys? Welcome back to the CMH show. Let's talk about know, like, and trust today. By the way, happy Tron week. I'm a big Tron nerd, have been for a long time. That series has consistently been like 20, 30 years ahead of its time. I heard the new one's not great, but hopes still remain. So Legacy's one of my top 10 favorite movies, and the soundtrack is probably top 5 movie soundtracks. I think it's amazing. Daft Punk did an incredible job. If you're not familiar with the franchise, I definitely recommend. Anyway, so got my Tron shirt on. Oh, this is from my actual merch store. If you want to check that out too, shameless plug, epicnerdgear.store if you're interested in that kind of thing. Sweet. Know, like, and trust. Okay, so I've been talking a lot about AI lately, and I want to talk about what I'm trying to prepare you guys. Right, that's kind of been my effort in having these pieces lately. And so I want to talk about what I think are going to be commodities in the new environment that we're entering into, the new paradigm, the new frontier that we're entering into post AI. And so know, like, and trust, I think, are going to be viewed as commodities. More, we've already seen that a lot, candidly. I think you've seen, I'm going to give some examples throughout here, but I think you've seen people establish platform. That's know, right? Visibility. Know, meaning they're aware of you, right? Like, is there a likability factor? It doesn't mean you have to, everybody has to like you, by the way, guys. Like, we're not playing popularity here. In fact, I actually recommend the opposite. I think you're going to have to differentiate yourself with your unique values, your unique personality, the things you believe in. I think the days of playing neutral, and I don't mean in a political sense, differentiation in a lot of ways is going to have to come from your company culture is going to be representative, an extension of who you are. You're seeing a lot of big CEOs, like, think back in the day, right? You didn't have CEOs put their brand out in front. They kind of stayed behind the scenes, right? Like, you didn't know who the CEO of General Motors was, right? Or at least they weren't publicly putting themselves out there. You maybe knew who they were, but they weren't like as overt in their views as they are now, right? Like the Elon Musks, right? Who's posting every 5 minutes about his thoughts about the world. I think somebody like Trump has also done that as well, and probably was one of the earlier ones to do that. But back in the day, the Jack Welches and those guys, they you were aware of them, but they weren't putting themselves out there like they do today, leading with values, leading with belief systems, stuff like that. And so for some people, they're going to love you. Some people, they're going to hate you. And that's just who we are innately. We're very tribalistic. So in this example, use that to your benefit. That does mean you're going to get some hate. I trust me when I tell you, I get hate, and on my YouTube, and I don't even have a big audience here. Like, that's not an area where I've over the years invested a lot of time in. And so you'll see, like, in some of my interviews, I did a Jack Canfield interview, and like people were hating on me, and it was fair. I was trying really hard because it's Jack freaking Canfield, and so people like accuse me of being a try hard, and I'm like, yeah, I don't want to give him a non-intellectual conversation, so I probably was trying really hard. I admitted it in the comments. I responded, I was like, yes, he was trying hard. The host, like, P.S. This is the host, kind of thing. Like, I agree with you. I was. But my point remains, visibility, aka posting your thoughts, right, with your brand positioning, likability to a subset of people that you want to have like you, that you will build a tribe around, a community around, people that believe in the same value systems, what have you. They support your brand because of those things, and that could be a plethora of different things, right? We can talk about more examples of what that could be, and then trust. Right. So do people have an established level of trust with you? I'm going to get to that here in a second about why that is going to be maybe more important than the first 3. So let's go back. One of the things I've been talking about is making sure that you are planting your flag on your predominant platform, or predominant platforms, plural. I would have a home where I really focus most of my efforts, and I think that's going to involve spend now, meaning I'm going to spend money on that platform to grow my audience there. So, like, for us, historically, my business partner and wife, Kim, like, that's where she made her bread and butter. Like, I fell into this world because she built her bread and butter there. She started her business off the back of my first business. And so we've kind of always been, like, unofficially partnered in a sense. And then me realizing that my first business, wasn't my, like, ultimate thing that I want to do forever, labor intensive. Anyways, if you don't know my full story, I'll get to that at some point in time. But just know, like, we grew that to a pretty significant business, and then, kind of exited because it just was not, it was taking years off my life to run a business like that. So I kind of fell into marketing because she found a path that seemed to really work. And then I saw the scalability factor of what marketing is selling at scale. And so I kind of fell into this world. So, but bottom line is that our bread and butter has been what she built on YouTube for the past decade plus. And she planted her flag there and made it a priority. And that has served us significantly well. Like, the lead gen we get from YouTube alone could drive the entire business with or without any spend at all. That doesn't mean that you can't still take advantage of that. If you're late to doing that now, I would still recommend planting your flag. It may just be more competitive than what it was before. And I talked about that. Go back and listen to my previous episodes. They were audio only on the social media recession. So basically, it's gotten crowded online. That's going to continue to be the case. But I think there will be a shakeout as well. I do think that some people are going to say, this isn't really an opportunity. Like, I'm posting into the abyss. I'm not really getting any results. I kind of have to go in other directions. Possibly. That's a possibility. So stake it out. I think, again, listen to those episodes. I talk about it in more depth, but I think things will normalize in one way or shape or form or another. There's always a new opportunity. But for you, I think picking a platform where your people are is going to establish visibility, aka like people know who you are, right? So that's one. You got to have eyeballs on you and your brand. Period. That's going to be a commodity. Platform will be commodity. It's already commodity now. It's going to be even more the case in the future. Likability. The example that I'll give you is I use them often actually as an example, but Chip and Joanna Gaines, right? Think what they've done with Magnolia. It's not far from where I live here in Austin. It's like an hour or so. 30,000 people a weekend, I think, is last time I was there. I asked, because I'm just a curious mind. So I asked, how many people come here every weekend? Like, what's the tourist numbers look like? And it was a couple years ago. It was 30,000 people a weekend visit Waco, Texas. And if you've been to Waco, it's a cute downtown, I guess. Right? I don't know why I just said cute. This is kind of sus. But for lack of a better term, it has a cool downtown feel. But outside of Magnolia, there's not a lot there that you'd really see. I mean, Baylor's a cool campus, what have you, but you wouldn't go there if it weren't for Magnolia. Let's just put it that way. Unless you were just driving down the highway en route from, Dallas to Austin, be like, oh, let's stop and get somebody and stay here the night. That kind of thing. So they transformed the image of an entire town, right? Waco was known for not good things, as you may know, right? Historically speaking. And they've transformed the image of that entire town. And I will tell you this, it's built on platform and likability. That's what it's built on, right? People like Chip and Jo. I think a lot of people, they view their relationship, and I think there are women that want their relationship to look like that with their husband, or vice versa. I think husbands want to, have that relationship with their wife because they think they have a nice cadence and a nice, back and forth. As a duo, right? They seem to have a really strong relationship, and they're doing something together. More specifically, they're doing something together that's making houses into really beautiful homes. And so, obviously, right, that's going to be appealing to a lot of couples. And so, they've led with values in a lot of ways, right? They've led with who they are. They've established likability. They've had platform from HGTV. They have now leveraged that into their own platform, which is even more amazing. They've extended that into other brands like physical products. They've got, stuff at Target. They've got, we've got a book, like a recipe book. They've got restaurant, but they've been able to build that on those two things, platform and likability, right? And so as you move forward, and I'm going to get more into why this is important for you going forward into the future here in a second, those are going to be massively important, like finding where your piece of the pie is and then building from there, right? Because you never know what could happen, right? To a large degree, I think it's entirely possible that they reinvigorated HGTV. I don't think that HGTV was as prominent as it was post Chip and Joanna Gaines with Magnolia. You may disagree with that. I certainly didn't watch HGTV, and then now you've got an entire suite of shows that are kind of all spawned from the original premise of Fixer Upper, right? So I don't think those shows would exist. I mean, maybe we'd have a breakthrough, right? Like maybe Property Brothers or, Flip or Flop. Like maybe one of those would have broke through, but you can't right now tell that story without the Magnolia story, right? And so that's the power of building platform. Now, obviously, that was, a platform that was given to them. They didn't build on their own per se, which good for them. That's amazing. But the point remains platform and then likability, right? And so those are going to be huge. And I think the days of not speaking the truth as you see it and not living for your values and what you represent, or just being yourself. Like, we don't even have to get into fundamentals in terms of like your viewpoints or value systems. I think just being yourself. And if authentically that's who you are, where you like to share your opinions about the world and, your belief systems, which we do, Kim and I both share. I mean, I wear this, we talk about it openly. We're kingdom builders. Like, we've declared ourselves as, people for the kingdom. And so, doesn't mean I'm perfect, but I think you know that if you know me well enough. But it is a declaration that attracts certain people to our brand, where we talk about problem and solution aware all the time, right? Like, a lot of people have come to us and said, we found you on YouTube. We like you because you say it like it is from your vantage point, and you share my values. And so a lot of people in our space, sure, they may have marketing knowledge and they may have, business knowledge, but maybe there's not an alignment that builds community with those people. I think we have to really remember I mentioned tribalism. We have to really remember people are innately wired that way. I think it's one of the reasons why Web 2 is such a challenge for people and still remains a challenge for people. It was getting a little bit better. And I've talked about this kind of like the even back in the day, like actual tribes, when they got too large, tribes would splinter, denominations, right? They splintered from the church, right? But they found themselves in silos of shared belief systems and values, right? Even if it was nuanced, even if it was like we agree on the macro, but then the micro we have disagreements on. You'll still see tribalism and fracturing in those environments as well. And we went from a society that basically we were contained in little verticals, like I'm a suburb kid, or I'm a rural kid, or I grew up in the city, or I grew up in a state, I grew up on the West Coast, East Coast, another country, whatever. And largely you were only exposed probably to people that shared, I would say, standard deviation of maybe like, I mean, very small, right? Like, and if anybody was outside of that standard deviation, meaning like they were way on the opposite side of your, the agreed upon, or like people tend to congregate around shared values. They'll move to places, right, in accordance with their shared values and beliefs. So to have somebody outside, they were kind of an outsider, right? Like you kind of would dismiss them because they were like the weird kid or whatever, right? And so that wouldn't disrupt the collective because that person was viewed as, again, like kind of a renegade outsider. And then all of a sudden, in a post Web 1 entering into Web 2 world, then you're exposed to dynamic interactions on the internet in which you now went from echo chamber, really is what it is, to exposure to everybody's thoughts, everybody's viewpoints on the internet. And what happens is that disrupts, we all have that desire to belong to things, and we feel safe in belongingness. That's why people will conform, right? They'll like dress, like somebody is wearing something a certain way, even if it's silly, right? I always said this, like if a celebrity started wearing underwear on their head, people would conform to that. And then all of a sudden that would be like what the cool thing is, right? Like it could be seriously that ridiculous to a lot of, and if you think about trends over history, like style trends, like sometimes they are that ridiculous, like maybe not, that's kind of hyperbolic, but just to a varying degree, like on a sliding scale of like ridiculousness to like very bland and boring, like there's probably somewhere in between of like what styles, like baggy pants are back in. Like they look ridiculous, but we did it. Those millennials did it. And I look back now, the kids are doing it again. Like we wore the Jenko jeans, and it's like, what the heck? Like, what were we thinking? But it was the bell bottoms before that. Now the kids are wearing the baggies now. I don't know if there's a specific brand that does those, but you get my point, right? My broader point is we will conform to the things around us because we do innately desire to conform and to blend in with that tribe, right? It's just kind of like how we're wired. And I think a lot of social media has activated our lizard brain. Actually, RFK Jr. just talked about this. Our lizard brain has been activated to enhance what we see online and then to broadly apply that to the rest of the world around us. And then you get out and you touch grass and you actually interact with other people and you realize, no, like the world around me isn't that way. Now, maybe if you flew to Portland and you lived in, Utah, you'd feel that. Or if you went to India and you were from New York, like you would feel that. But that's what the internet has provided, is these like crazy varying views of the world or belief systems or values or what have you. And obviously there's some overlap, but not significant. Like if you grew up in a town where everybody kind of held a lot, like again, that deviation is much, much wider at that point, right? Much bigger. And so what that allows you to do though, and what's happening is people are filing into platforms that align, right? Whether that's interest-based, demographic-based, psychographic-based. I've talked about this in previous episodes. I won't go too into the trenches on that. But what you'll see though, is that if you can find a platform where that is conducive or reflective of, where you're not going to get shadow banned and censored and so on and so forth, because that's what's happened to us, unfortunately, on some platforms, that I think you can really find where people align with you. They're there for that reason. They find you because that's what that platform's about. And then you're able to kind of speak that to where they have a sense of belonging, like leverage human psychology to your benefit, right? And if you're not doing that, I think you're missing a little bit. And I think you're going to continue to miss a little bit when we're talking about, the way things are progressing, right? And people are going to find their corners of the internet continuously, specifically when this continues to happen, right? We're like, we become even more fractured. I think it's actually going to be better that way. I really believe that. I think we're going to find that healthy degree of separation where we kind of go and we feel like we belong. But that's just a belief system that's just a position that I hold, right? So regardless, I'm down a rabbit hole. So platform, choose it where people probably are going to align with you, or if you're doing it on a platform that's broader, like mainstream, right? Like a meta platform where there's, you're going to have a mix of all peoples. You will cut through and you will resonate with those people, and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I found you. It's going to be like an oasis that they found you specifically, right? If you can cut through the noise and not get shadow banned, right? So that's that. If I would say at that point, I'd make a demographic decision based off of being on that platform because I know my age range is there or people that are interested in my topic are there, right? And there's opportunity on that platform. So chase people over platform, build likability. Lastly, we're going to talk about, and I'm going to let you guys go, is going to be the third factor, which is trust, right? And so we're talking about trust. This is the concern that I have, right? So you're going to see, as I talked about in my concerns about AI episode, you're going to see more and more people seeking, because of job displacement, seeking opportunities to make money outside of the traditional 9 to 5. I was just reading today, actually, that 44% of people are struggling to pay their mortgage or rent. And this is one of the longest, on average, gaps that people are experiencing of employment to employment, meaning they're unemployed, right? One of the longer gaps since, like, I think the Great Recession of the 08-09 season. And so what you'll find, and this is not even talking about AI just yet in its full capacity, but I think when you continue to see that job displacement, there are positives that are coming. I'll talk about that in a future episode of what AI is going to bring. Like estimates show about 78 million new jobs created from what AI is going to bring. Now, can I tell you with certainty what those jobs are going to look like? I can speculate, but I think there's going to be a transitory season of a little bit of pain. Like that's not a light switch thing. I wish it could be. It's more of a, again, transition. And so I think you'll see people that struggle to adapt. And I would think you will see people that are left no choice but to try to do something on their own. Like I have friends actually in this situation right now that are looking for opportunities outside of 9 to 5 that weren't before because lost job, being replaced in some way, whether that's AI or cheaper means because companies are hurting economically. So they're looking for cheaper means or they're just laying off, period, right? Especially in tech. So what will happen is you will see more people entering the marketplace. That's one factor. That's just the economic factor and humans because of job displacement entering that. But secondarily is going to be the friction to get something off the ground, the friction to create content, AKA more noise in the algorithm because of what AI tools represent and present as opportunities, right? So like I vibe code and I will create I'll create, sandbox ideas of things that I enjoy or ideas that I have, right? It could be like midnight. I have an idea for like a new platform, whatever. Like I'll literally come in here and sit down and I'll pull up an AI agent, like on Replit or something, and I'll create a sandbox iteration. It's not a beta. It's not a functioning, alpha or beta, but it's a sandbox idea that I have that I could theoretically continue to pursue and hand to a dev for, taking it the rest of the way. Maybe I can get it 50% of the way there. Soon it'll be where your AI agents can get it 80% of the way there. And then you literally find a dev who probably might be freelancing because of the reasons I just said that can help you get it over the hump, right? And get it all the way there, right? So you're going to have more stuff going on. We joke around and call it App Timu. My friends and I do. My engineering friends call it App Timu, like AppSumo. So if you know AppSumo, it's a platform where you have all these people creating like little apps, right? And the premise of it's awesome. The execution of it is not always great if you bought something from AppSumo. But we said this is going to be an App Timu environment, meaning you're going to have a lot of AI created, whether user generated or even just AI has created something like that's coming too on its own merit, like creating something that's entering into the world where everybody could theoretically have an app, right? Like, or just could generate itself, right? It could literally be like it just created something. And so again, we talk about the importance of visibility, platform knowingness, like they're going to choose you over all those options because you've established those first two, right? And so more options mean option overwhelm. They will defer to things that they know and like. Lastly is the trust factor. Know, like, and trust, because we've all been to a point where we bought something that was janky. We bought something that didn't live up to expectations. And what do? We defer back to what? Brands we know, brands we like, brands we trust. If you establish those three, you're going to be setting yourself up great, and you'll be able to stand out in a sea of nonsense of AppTimu world. You will stand out and people will continue to choose yours, even though there's a sea of options. And then I think what will happen is typically the free market, I always say this, the free market doesn't always get it right, but it eventually gets it right. So meaning it's delayed in finding course correction. But I think what you'll find is that, yes, there'll be this massive influx of new platforms, new voices, new content, new whatever. A lot is going to feel soulless because it is AI generated and it doesn't come through like the unique voice of you, right? Again, it's why important to lean into your values and your beliefs and who you are, because AI won't fully capture that to the full extent that it could. But also, is this darn thing going to do what the core premise of it was intended for it to do? Or is it going to be just, again, an AppTimu environment? I would argue the latter. I would very much argue the latter is probably going to be the case. And so if you can deliver on said promise of your offer, And we haven't talked about that. We haven't talked about the importance of differentiating your offer. We'll talk about that in another episode. But if you can establish those three for now, the trust factor of cutting through that noise and delivering on the core premise of your solution will create superfan long-term customers and likely reviews across the web, where now Grok, chat, other language models will actually be recommending you because the noise and chat around the internet is positive about your brand, aka you're establishing curated trust from those language models, right? Like we've bought products specifically, Kim and I have, like we bought one to lower VOC count because the person that lived in this house we're living in now before us, I mean, she put Glade everywhere, like Glade plugins, right? And the VOCs and formaldehyde were so high, my face was like, I mean, I was having like allergic reactions to it. It was so bad. Like the numbers were through the roof. I had no idea what to do with that. So what do? I start asking Grok, like, I'm sensitive to these chemicals that are happening in this house. Like, what can I do? Boom. It recommended a filter that I'm spending $4,000 on. Now, what are the odds that I would have Googled and found that? But since they had a lot of chatter on the web because they had built platform, people liked them, people bought from them and left reviews about them. Now that curated for me where I may have not actually found them beforehand, right? So benefits of how all those three are going to come together. So either you're going to stand on your own merit because you have platform, or now all the content and all the positioning and all the work you've done to create that chatter and visibility is going to be now recommended to you through these language models that we're all adapting and using. I think chat's up to like 700 million monthly users. That's a huge deal. And so that curation aspect is going to help you build that trust, because guess what? The premise of Google was to give you what? Valid link results. The premise, I've talked about this in previous episodes, the premise of these language models is to give you a curated good result, which is a really tall order. Like that's a crazy tall order, because you're now disallowing the user. I mean, you're not disallowing, but you're Google only had to give you a set of links for you to then choose what is the one that is the most relevant to you. Now they're giving you an actual prompt result that is most relevant to you as they see it, and that may be one or two options or just one option. Right? That's a really tall order for these models. And so the reason I'm bringing that up is because the more visibility you create around the fact that your brand is reputable and trustworthy, the more it's going to recommend you. Why? Because it's safe. Because if it's not a good result for you, you're going to start using another language model. You're going to stop using Grok if it doesn't give you, be like, this was a garbage response. I'm going to go use chat. I'm going to go use Gemini. I'm going to go use another one. So the more you can build those reviews, that's why Amazon says like, highest rated or, most recommended or whatever. So in a sea of all those, how many times have you gone to the one that has the best reviews that is Amazon user approved or recommended the most? Now talk about that at scale across the web. That's what's possible. And this is all outside of what I'm talking about here. I mean, it's an addition, it's ancillary to, but your platform allows you to, one, get discovered in your own merit. Two, that likability and tribe also will continue to buy, which then they'll leave you positive reviews and sentiments, which will lead to you attracting those people on your own, but also being recommended through these language models and or search engines. So you cannot lose in that environment. The degree at which you can win that is completely up to you at that point, right? And so I like long form content in that regard, and we'll make an argument for that in a later episode as well, because now what? I'm giving data. And it can't be just noise, right? It has to be actual signal. And so hopefully what I'm providing is signal for the web to be able to say like, hey, this person's talking about this stuff a lot and is consistently doing it. And so people are looking for help specifically with like standing out with their marketing, especially as AI becomes really noisy and makes things even noisier than it already is. Well, then there's a higher probability, at least I'm hedging my bet on that people would come to me because they're like, yeah, he's having these conversations, like he's having this conversation and people are responding in a positive manner. And I'm actively talking about those things, right? So do with that as you will, but my advice is to keep things simple. So understand those three concepts. And then, as I've said, and I will continue to say, be a content machine and get your people chatting about you as much as possible. Get reviews, get testimonials, put them on your website. Make sure they're visible. I love when people say you're great. Make sure it's in a place where that's actually going to be crawled and read. And or you're gathering them someplace. Like if you had a local business, like your Google reviews are going to be great. Like if it was a physical product business, find a way to get those Amazon reviews. Like it will recommend you and or you will get discovered in some way, shape, or form or another. Let the semantics of it fall into place as they will, but do what you need to do to make sure that you're giving yourself that best opportunity for that to do so. And I think it starts with those three pillars we talked about here today. So hope you guys appreciated that episode and benefited from it. If you guys are interested, I'm going to include a link below. Shameless plug. We are launching an entire suite of custom GPTs behind our coaching program. So not only are you getting the one-on-one feedback inside of a group setting or a one-on-one setting, but we're also going to have custom GPTs that you're literally able to use as a weapon, like for real as a weapon to be able to do things much faster, but also through our differentiated mechanisms. So it's not just generic soulless responses. It's actually, we've infused our unique mechanisms, much of which I'm talking about here today, are already built into the GPT off of a decade more of trainings that we've given it. Like, it's crazy how loaded these things are. And we're going to continue to roll out new GPTs inside of our program that's going to help you be the marketer that you can be. Or if you're a business owner and you're like, man, like marketing, is taking too much of my time, it's going to help you reduce that time spend tenfold, maybe more, right? So check that out. Include it in the link below if you want to learn more about that. We're going to probably add a little demo video. You can check out what I'm talking about with the AI tool that we're working on. I'm really excited about it, but I'll see you guys in the next one. Go watch Tron this weekend.